Hey, hello. Video on the deck that I've been playing and very much enjoying. I'm pretty sure if you've tested into it, you don't enjoy this deck, but if you do, that's fine. I very much enjoy it. It very much fits the kind of deck that I like to play. It's kind of something I've wanted to achieve with Kiwi, I think, for a long time, and sort of my obsession of really enjoying the card dock. And in this build, I get to play all the cards that I've mentioned in my top three favorite cards as well. So I'm quite happy with that, and it's been fairly consistent. I think it's going to be so popular as well that we have to put some emphasis on testing for the mirror, prepping for the mirror, and of course, you could do something like just cut the Calhouns from this list, cut John Silver. I think John Silver's just good overall, but definitely cut the Calhouns and just go more on like Lilos, the two-cost Lilo, Zombie Lilo, and just go full out aggro if you wanted to. But if not, I'm thinking I have to think about that matchup because it's going to be very popular. The deck clearly has shined to like being one of the top tier one decks. This and what's it called? Green Steel, the Green Steel discard with Beyond the Horizon being the only real addition. They can try Chip Out and a few other cards, but Beyond the Horizon is really the only addition to that deck that is substantial. But for me personally, yeah, it's just been like I have to play the deck that I enjoy the most and I think performs the best. For me, is this. I really like learning it. It's you could even get to the point where you could cut these cards like Rapunzel and just go fully and just put more one drops in, or more like filter cards like Simba or Mulan, or you could just put more aggressive two questers, or you could try putting like Sven in there or something like that if you wanted to, just to resand things, or you could put more five drops in, you could put like Gantu in there. You could go really loads of different directions with it, and it's very much a deck that lives and dies in its mulligan, of course. This deck could just be terrible if you mulligan into a bad hand, and sometimes the games that I lose tend to be just the hand that I get that is bad. But I'll just walk through every card in the deck and sort of again why I really think this playstyle is for me, and why I'll probably be doing more videos on it and just keep advancing this list because I'm just having a great time with it. But yeah, I think just before I go into all of that, I want to say people's aggression to getting upset with the deck. For me personally, it's like if you play versus a control deck and they beat you, it tends to take a lot of time, and you have this like glimpse of hope that you probably could have won the game. Where in actual fact, the cards they drew and the cards you drew, you're never going to win anyway. Whereas an aggro deck, you kind of decided if you've won or lost very quickly, and the game is over very quickly. And I think sometimes people feel a bit cheated out by a game because it was done so quickly. For me personally, it's just you got past that painful period of the control deck having to sit there, ramp, play visions, build up a giant item pool, B prep your board like three times, and you still think you've got a glimpse of hope that you can win the game. Whereas an aggro deck, it just sort of does its thing quickly. You even know if you've won or lost, and the outcome of the game is done and settled very efficiently, in my opinion. And I've always loved this style of deck. I think this lady card was a card that I really understated. I did not enjoy it when I first read it. I think it being a 2/2 was pretty rough, and like bodies on the board was quite important. It was very important in the last set. Having a decent body on the board, so cards like Genie were shining quite a bit, and even set six as well, like Genie was shining quite a bit. So to put a 2/2 on board is fairly rough. But if you're able to play Lady and get like a Smee, which is a good body, or a Daisy, which is a good body on the board, and you've also presented four lore on that turn. So if you were to do a line where you played Daisy turn one, Smee turn two, or Daisy turn one, Piglet turn two, so you're representing five lore when you play another character, then you play Lady into a Smee or a Daisy, and you're representing an insane amount of lore, and you don't really mind if you quest it sideways and they get a very good trade, like they hit a snake or a fox into it. You're not going to be upset about that because you quested for two and you're just insanely ahead. And then as long as you've got a dock or something like that to refill the hand and keep the board pressure going, you're very, very fine. But again, like I said, these are just cards from other TCGs that I've played that just very much read similar. Imp Explosion from Hearthstone is very much my sort of jam. You get to do something and then you get to play a bunch of characters for free in this token system. There's a card from One Piece that I still play in my deck right now. It reads pretty much the same as Lady. When you play it, you get to play a character for free, meeting the criteria, which is 3,000 power, which is kind of relevant to a two cost in Lorcana anyway. And Miraidon allows you to search for basic energy type Pokemon to put them on the board for free. So for me personally, whenever I read cards that say play something for free, play a character for free, I tend to get quite excited, which was quite upsetting when I read Lady. I just thought she had to be a 2/3 or a 3/2 or whatever statted wise to be worth it. But actually, because of that, I missed out on the fact that she quests for two, and that is pretty powerful. Pretty powerful. She's still, in my opinion, very easy to play around and very breakable. Like, if you do the double character swing and then they let the Storm Rage on the lady, you're actually down to just gaining a 2 cost character on that turn 3. Or if they play Ursula and you went lady and played Piglet, and they double singlet the Storm and take up both of them, you've kind of got nothing from that entire turn, and it just took 2 cards out of your hand. So I don't love any of that, but that's one matchup versus green steel, and every other matchup it doesn't feel like they have very appropriate answers unless you want to become like a steel pile deck that's just going to throw loads of fire the cannons and things in there. I think mainly the best answers to the card is steel. Red doesn't particularly have too many. Unless we're going to go back to a Teeth and Ambition meta. And I say back to it, we were never really in one because it never really worked. In my opinion, Teeth and Ambition never really worked as a card. So overall, besides into green steel and a few of the steel pile decks, she seems to really outperform. And even in the mirror, if you're going to go wide and you're going to force them to have to respond to things and answer, it's still pretty good, as long as that other character you put on the board was a good body. But even saying that, further with that, I've sometimes played Lady into Piglet. They haven't had Let the Storm or Strength, and you have to remember in the mirror, we're working with, 8 song cards that could answer or put a dent in this, and they pretty much have to be sung. So if they haven't put a Cindy down turn 1 or turn 2 or turn 3, they haven't got a Cindy on the board. Basically, they're gonna have to hard cast it, and that is just terrible. I don't mind playing 2 questers that have to be answered, or maybe a 2 quester and a Piglet that have to be responded to, and then giving them very bad tempo, and I just play Dock and I just keep going wider and win anyway. So yeah, the card overall was something that brought it all together. And of course the other card in the deck is the Rhino Shift Line, which you play the 1-drop and you play the 4-drop. I posted the list and said, oh, this sort of, the deck has developed from being the whole to this new Amber Steel aggro deck, just from these 2 cards. And I forgot to mention that Rhino 1-drops in the deck. Fairly underwhelming 1-drop, and I think my reasoning for that is that in the deck you get to play so many amazing 1-drops with Daisy, Duck, and Cinderella just being overpowered. Like if you open Daisy or Cindy, they're amazing. If you open Rhino and you shift him, that's great. But if you're just opening with a Rhino into nothing, that's pretty awful. Whereas Cindy, even if I don't have a song in hand, like it's so threatening that people sometimes they miss their turn 1. Like a purple deck won't play a Chernobog because they're like, I just don't want to get Let the Stormed. Whereas Rhino, if you play it and you don't shift it, and they don't, they're not going to play around or anything like that, and you just quest for 1, and they're like, oh, he doesn't have the Rhino shift. Otherwise, he's only just putting a 1-drop on the board for the sake of putting a 1-drop on the board. But the more I play it, it's got some depth to it. The -1 reduction is pretty good. It means you can do some really cool trades with the Calhoun. I even did things like I might end up putting Plutos in the deck, and for a turn you can play it and minus, say, like a Tipo or a Broom or like an Ursula 2 cost, something that would pop the Pluto. You can minus it so they can't do that. So whatever they run into, it has to take the full 5 damage. So it does have some fairly good usability, but it's mainly there to justify the shift line. Outside of that, you just don't really use the card. But yeah, you still read what's on the text. You still use it to your best advantage. That's great. And then in shifting Rhino on 2, there will be a ton of matchups where this card is not good. I think if you were, say, building this and testing with your buddy or your mate, and he is a Ruby Sapphire main and he only plays Ruby Sapphire, you are going to have a very boring time thinking Rhino's any good. It's not. In the mirror, it can just be a powerhouse of a card that, locks your opponent out from turning Daisy sideways without being removed easily. And if they don't do anything, you can just keep questing with the Rhino. They can't really sing Strength of the Raging Fire on it. They can't really sing Let the Storm on it. So if you can get it down early versus other aggressive decks, that's amazing. Like, even they need to buff their Fox up to take out a Rhino, because they'll run it in and it will still survive 1, and then they might have to run another 1-drop in, so you could 2 for 1, unless they have a Crab buff. Like, the worst thing that can happen to Rhino is mainly buffing like a Chernobog with the Crab and running it in. But of course, if you've got Rhino shifted, you should have Singers for Let the Storm to control the board a bit more. I think the reason why I used Ruby Sapphire to begin with as the worst example is if they just put a Maui, like if they just put Maui down and they cut it out, and you've spent turn 1 and turn 2 developing a 4-cost, it's pretty bad for you there. So you kind of ink it there. But he has so many applications where he's great. And if not, he's like the freest ink of all time, because you really want to just be prioritizing going wide and spamming all these characters. So you can just ink those cards anyway, it's fine. And it's not too expensive on the top end, because we were a dock deck. And of course, coming from Kiwi, I'm quite, that build has a bunch of 5-drops and Dock was really only there to keep the gas going, and then like you could dock into a 5-drop and the next turn play your 5-drop. Whereas here, of course, you're always double spelling like you were with Diggy Hole. And when you play dock, you want to play like a Smee or a Calhoun or a Piglet next to it. Or if you get to 5 ink, you play it, then play a Lawrence, or you play a Pete, or whatever you want to play. You want to always be able to play something as well as the dock, just to keep the gas going, keep going wider, because dock as a body on the board isn't that threatening. He is a 1/3 and he quests for 1, so he's something on the board, but you really want to be putting another 2 quester next to him. I mean, if you could dock into double Daisy, that'd be just an outstanding turn for you as well. But yeah, overall, the rest of the list is very standard. You've got Cindy with the song package. Daisy, yeah, you're aiming to get those triple Daisy plays whenever you can. Rhino as well. So you've got 12 1-drops there. I think in a world where we were going a lot more deeper on surprise factor, I think you could even just cut some of these cards just to go for maybe like 14 or maybe 16 1-drops in the deck. Just because, yeah, again, you just want to be going really low, really wide as quick as you can. You could even put, I wouldn't try putting the Robin Hood shift line in. I don't think Robin Hood really works in this sort of deck, but you could put more 1-drops in there. You've got Penny, and Penny works in a great way to give Smee 1 resist, so he doesn't take that 1 damage, means he gets a quest for longer, means he isn't going to be hit by Let the Storm. And John Silver's also another card in there, I think, that helps with that. I'll mention him in a second. He might just be in there because I really like the card, but but I think he's very, very broken and very, very good. But yeah, Penny kind of just gives life to some of your littler 2 questers for a bit more. And you might even have turns where, say if you're on the draw and they've opened a 1-drop that has 1 strength into a Calhoun or a Smee or something, if you're able to play Penny on the Daisy, you can give it resist 1 so that they can't easily just hit it with a 1 and a 2 and take it out. It just makes that turn a little bit more awkward for them. It would require them to have more answers. And of course, a lot of decks do. There is Crab and things like that can answer it. So the deck is, I don't think the deck was doing it without its faults. And I think as well, a lot of the time, you'll just live and die with a mulligan. You might be like, right, I've got 2 costs in my opener, and like the rest is all just songs and expensive stuff. I'll send back 6, you get no 1-drop, and you've done this really deep mulligan, and it's just terrible. And that can happen. It's an aggro deck. It lives and dies in those earlier turns. I think every turn past like turn 3 or 4, maybe probably turn 4, your chance of winning will diminish by a percentage until the game ends, really. And I think that can only really spike up with how many docks you draw, because dock allows you to just keep spamming. It allows you to basically repeat your earlier turns of playing a character and going wider every chance you get. So yeah, I think Penny's pretty decent. I do prefer the Lilo sometimes. I'm still in between it. Like I say, it's still an early set. We've only really done 1 local league and played in a lot of testing. And I do prefer Lilo a lot, but I think a lot of people I test with, especially online, quite like Sapphire or Ruby decks, and Lilo has always been kind of a powerhouse in that. If you can get to the point where they're going to do their Be Prepared or Sisu, and once they've done it, you can just recycle and play Lilos again, that's great. But I don't think we're preparing for a Ruby meta, or at least a Ruby Sapphire meta in this instance right now. But if it ever goes that way, if someone adds some new cards to make Ruby Sapphire and maybe even Ruby Amethyst very, very powerful again, I think you can just swap out Penny and put Lilo in there, and I think your win percentage should increase hopefully a little bit more. But right now it's mainly aiming for steal, so damage reduction is really great, and challenges from Foxes and Crab, making those percentages a little bit better is also really great. So Penny sort of sticks around the list for that, I think. Yeah, and I kind of disregarding Ruby Amethyst because I am yet to find anyone. Like a gentleman at my locals was playing it and was fun, and to be honest with you, the deck had its problems like that has always usually happened to Ruby Amethyst. If they're able to triple 1-drop and you haven't really got Cindy out to start pinging off things, and they're going to play a Crab, it's kind of rough. Queen of Hearts is kind of rough, but overall I think Ruby Amethyst just gets completely pushed out of the meta by Emerald Steel with Beyond the Horizon and cards like that, and just basically it's this is one of its worst matchups. They can get on top of you, but Diggy Hole, and this being very close to what Diggy Hole is, pretty much the same list. That and Emerald Steel now being a bit more buffed as well. So it's 2 worst matchups, like the 2 most popular decks in the meta. It probably shouldn't survive, but Ruby Amethyst always comes around, doesn't it? And comes back at some point. But Ruby Sapphire I think is still playable. Blurple, Emerald Amethyst, so there are some like rush decks that are in there. But on top of that, like Amethyst Steel and Emerald Steel and Amber Steel seem to be the three top contenders for the set right now. And Piglet, I think you just 4x Piglet because if you can play Lady into a Piglet, and so on that turn you're going into a 5 lore turn for 3 ink. That's just nuts to me. And you just a lot of the time you want to just he's not an expensive thing to put on the board, and if you get him for free off Lady, that's even better. And you're aiming for this game plan of by the end of the turn, by the end of the game, I'll probably have no cards in hand, and you'll probably have won the board, but I'll be at 20 lore or be threatening 20 lore anyway. So just keep him at a 4x. He's pretty good. Pretty good. Even on the draw sometimes, like I can be behind, but if I play Lady into Piglet and manage to go wider and then take a quest, and it's like, hold on, I've now jumped your lore, and now it didn't matter that you went first. I'm ahead on lore, and you need to chase me for the removal. So that's pretty great. Calhoun as well. She's mainly in there because I'm just anticipating so many mirror techs. Like it was the first set 8 of my locals yet on Tuesday, and like a couple lads had already messaged me asking for lady cards and asking for and stuff for Amber Steel. So I was like, I expect it to be fairly popular. I expect for Store Champs it to be popular, and we're playing at Axion. I expect it to be popular. So trying to learn how to play with the techs for the mirror already in there is pretty much worth it. Of course, Doc is the centerpiece, and just if you, it's different though with Kiwi. If you're coming here watching this from playing Kiwi, in this deck you do want to keep Docs in your opener hands. If you can see a line where you can play turn 1, turn 2, play a character, turn 3, play a character, then turn 4, play a 2-drop and Doc, and just keep the engine going, you definitely want to keep those sort of hands. So yeah, he's sort of stuck in the deck for that, and he's just really great. One of my favorite cards. Smee, just the chunkiest boy and the best stats in the game. We've gone over Lady, and the rest seems very much what's standard, except for the John Silver. And I've always just really liked John Silver because, if you're going for those full quest turns, you can do something like play a bunch of daisies from turn 1 and turn 2 and turn 3, play like 3 daisies. And then John Silver, one of their things that was going to answer it. So making their maps a little bit off, full quest again. And they may be able to chase the daisies at that point, but if daisies have got to quest, for 3 times, you probably won the game. And if not, you've now got the Strength of the Raging Fire Singer set up, who only quests for 1, so you could take that lore, or you can use him to start trading and making things awkward for them. He stops Mr. Smee taking 1 damage, and that's pretty good because Let the Storm Rage On is so popular in this game right now. With the 2 top decks, including the card. So yeah, him being a 3/2 by the end of turn is actually quite a big thing. So that's just awesome. Yeah, I just really rate the cards. I don't think he's going to be like 100% popular in a lot of lists. And to be honest, I started with 3 and I've gone down to 2. But when he works, he's amazing. And like sometimes, they've won the board or they've got a thing on board that's going to take out everything as you quest. Maybe it's a big Tinkerbell, maybe it's a Maui, maybe it's a Maui Shark. You just John Silver at full quest, and now that option to use that character as a challenger is gone. But even in those earlier turns as well, stopping a Calhoun, a Smee, or whatever it is, running in. Even you can go further and like you can anticipate they're going to play a fox and play a crab, and buff something up and challenge it in. You can put the debuff on that and stop them from like aggroing and running in and doing the damage. So there's just so much usability with that card as well. But yeah, the rest of the deck is fairly standard in what you'd see. You got your Pete's, you got your Lawrences in there, you got Rapunzel. But I think even so, like the deck is so aggressive, I don't know how much it would use Rapunzel. But yeah, this is sort of just my take on the list. Pretty much going to be the same as I think many others are going to do as well. Nothing spicy in there, I don't think, besides John Silver. But it's the deck that I've been enjoying the most, and probably what I'll carry on with in set 8. And then post rotation, probably go back to Sapphire Steel to see whatever that's going to be after post rotation. And the game's going to be very new and very fresh. So, but for set 8, it's quite nice to find a home in this list.